All right.
All right.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Josh Matches. I run all of NASDAQ's social media. And this panel is really about public companies and how it actually is a really big difference to make that transition from private to public. And I help companies every day when they're getting ready to go public on NASDAQ prepare themselves on social media to actually behave like a public company and to start to put out some of those investor messages that might not be sexy or fun, but are really, really necessary, and I'm gonna grill these two on it. But it's also really fun, and I get to be a part of an incredible experience working with different brand marketers, understanding what they do with their brands as they're getting ready for this incredible moment, and experiencing it through their lens. So really what we're gonna talk about today is how can you be the best brand and how can you manage your reputation on social, because that is the most paramount thing right now is, as a public company, how do you manage your reputation? And so I'll let Lori introduce herself.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lori Gustafson. I'm the Corporate Senior Director of Digital Marketing for all of SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. So that's really comprised of the SeaWorld parks as well as Busch Gardens and Sesame Place and a few other water parks that are mixed into the portfolio. And I'm excited to be here today. I oversee a lot of different areas for our organization, everything from what would be traditional website development to anything related to the mobile space and e-commerce. And I've spent a lot of years overseeing some content and social efforts as well. So excited to talk with you more about it today.
Great. Hey, everybody. Hope you guys all had a good lunch. My name's Dave Skina. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Ruby Tuesday Restaurants. I've been there. All right. Yes, good. Yes, you should all eat there, preferably frequently. So I've been there about 18 months, and before that, I was at PepsiCo, and before that, Kraft. So I've got a lot of experience consumer-facing social campaigns, both in consumer packaged goods and also on Ruby Tuesday. And right now, I don't know if any of them are in the room, but we are working with IZEA. Maybe that was some of the claps. So we have some bloggers actively working on our behalf right now to help us introduce our amazing, incredible new garden bar with 58 fresh ingredients and handmade dressings daily. So I'm just saying you should check that out.
True CMO right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's my shtick.
Awesome. Okay, so SeaWorld and Ruby Tuesday are incredible brands. And I have a very serious question for you. What are you gonna do if Donald Trump tweets about your brand? And this is a question that I've been asked by now several brands have come to me and they say, Josh, if Donald Trump has something to say about my brand, what do I do? How do I prepare for that moment?
All right, you wanna,
Go ahead, Dave.
first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell my boss that I put him up to it, and it was all planned. That'll be number one. But obviously depends on the nature of, of the tweet. But I certainly would remind folks that we employ some 29,000 American workers supporting American families and their American lives. Tell them about their fresh farm produce from American farmers produced at American farms. And did I mention America? And we're not going to sit here while anyone badmouths the United States of America. So I would certainly emphasize all the great benefits that our company brings to the country at large. And I would say too, with us in particular, you got to be aware of where your footprint is. If we were all based in urban centers that went one way in an election, that might influence my strategy, versus our footprint is primarily rural. And I know pretty much the percentage of counties that voted what direction in which we have a presence. And you got to think about that too. But look, we are simple, fresh American dining, and we would own the heck out of that. And I would also say that it would be, if any of you know the president and he wants to tweet positively about our brand, whether it's good or bad, the amount of publicity you could get from that, man, I wouldn't let it go to waste. I'll tell you that much.
That's a tremendously great answer. I love that. What about you, Lori? Do you think that?
Well, that one was hard to follow. I would.
I know.
Ditto,
You had a great
ditto,
response.
Dave.
Just say America a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the very same things. That's right. SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, employs 20,000 Americans as well. I mean, we have a long-standing, Americana tradition, and are, in the same way, have so many great things that we stand for and represent. So.
And I think the stats you both rattled
Yeah.
off are like exactly the message that people need to have prepared. And I bet you there are a lot of brands, maybe in this room, maybe on the live stream, that haven't even thought about this. And that if Donald Trump comes after their brand and they don't have this ready to go, well, you can not only lose a moment, an opportunity, but you can be punished by the world as they wait for your response, which is the most terrible thing as a brand. And I think that's where it falls into my court, where is this going to affect your stock price? And some of the things that he's done have they've positively impacted stock price, and some negatively. And it's hard to know where it's going to come out. But what you can do is be really, really well prepared. You can't decide what he's going to say about you, but you can decide what you can stand for. And I think you both really explained that very, very well. So back to reputation, because it is at the core of what's important in social media, particularly as a public company. Brands have to be honestly thinking about not just what their investors are thinking of, but where the public sentiment is headed and how their reputation is changing as people's tastes change. And I think, Laura, you have an incredible story based on some of your experience of how you are changing the SeaWorld brand now.
Yeah, that's great, Josh. So as I hope you all have known, a major milestone moment for the SeaWorld brand came last year, probably right around this time, when the company announced that it was no longer going to continue breeding killer whales. And social was incredibly important to tell that story. Societal views have changed and the company is changing with it. And it was a wonderful opportunity to really think about the entire sort of narrative of that big announcement for our company. And being public, there's a lot that goes into that. We have to find, influencers and partners who can, make sure that we're timed correctly in order to make sure that we're following the right guidelines and procedures. But also that type of huge news, we want to make sure that as many people as possible hear about that and can, take part of that change with us. So that was a really big moment for our organization. And we are hoping to have, continue to have, more of those moments where we would invite influencers to, be a part of that message for us. Yeah.
Really interesting. And I think so, for me, influencer marketing was my biggest objective of last year. And it was for NASDAQ, and it still is, and I'm continuing to build it out. But really what it's about is, for me, I'm always having to show all of our companies how you can bring in influencers and use them to create value for you. So I built this campaign called NASDAQ Artists. So I have all these Instagrammers, and I give them 5 minutes on the NASDAQ tower to photograph all of their images on this giant screen in Times Square. And then we do this whole blog write-up about them. And then that way I can connect that influencer with maybe brands that are on my network. And I think that was really powerful, and also I want people to think that NASDAQ's the cool place to go public. If you want to take your company public one day, I want you to be like, NASDAQ is so cool. They helped this Instagrammer, and now he's has his photos in the tower, so cool. I want that vibe. I want people to feel that. And if they're not feeling that about my brand, that matters. And so I feel for me, influencers are what's going to allow me to keep on the edge of my brand and stay on top of it. So what are you presently doing with influencers, or what do you hope to do this year with influencer marketing to help grow your brand?
Yeah, well, you think back to Lori's answer about SeaWorld. We're kind of, Ruby Tuesday and SeaWorld, I just met Lori, but we had kind of two sides of the same coin. They had a problem of extreme visibility on something that, they needed to have people understand and change brand perceptions. Highly visible platform because of something happened in the past. Ruby Tuesday is the opposite. Our biggest danger is being invisible. So we've made a lot of changes that appeal to women with young families, and that's who we need to bring in more of. And so we use bloggers and influencers as a means to start conversations. And so that's what we've been using them for right now with the launch of our new garden bar is because, particularly as you go to millennial moms, they're just not as impressed with conventional advertising. And while I think most of you know, it's probably why a lot of the content creators in this room, that's a fact. I mean, we all know this. And the thing that's helpful with influencers is it starts a conversation. It feels like a conversation. It doesn't feel like ad speak or marketing talk. And that's because while we say we sponsor it, and we're very transparent about that, you guys put your words to it, and you're not going to lie about your experience with the product. And so that's why it's so powerful for us, because we'll get 9 out of 10 people if you tell them, if they hear directly from a friend, you should go try out, Ruby Tuesday or this product or that product, they'll do it.
Right.
An ad, that might be 3 out of 10, right? Purchase intent. So that's the benefit of the blogging. The challenge is proving it.
Yeah,
And-
Dave, what's the ROI on an influencer for you?
Well, so I can tell you with arithmetic certainty how many guests I'll get if I do a billboard on the side of a highway or a TV spot, and even social things like Facebook are getting better. And the biggest challenge with bloggers and influencer content is proving arithmetically within your organization to your finance function or your CEO that you get as high or a higher return on your investment with a blogger as you would any of these other metrics, any of these other media types that have been around for a while and have metrics. And so if you guys want to sell more stuff, if you want to influence the people who can hire you to influence other people, I think one of the things you can do is do your best job of giving them a sense of how not just the audience members that follow you, but how many read each post, how many engage with it, and then the likelihood, even if it's just anecdotal, that those people who engage with it will do something with the knowledge. Because at the end of the day, while we all want to build brand equity, if Lori's not getting people through the front gate, and if I'm not getting you in a chair, it's all just talk. It doesn't matter. We need to drive ultimately sales and brand equity with what we do. And so the more you can help us do that, the more we can use influencers more and more and more as part of our marketing mix.
It's a really good point, and I think it's really important that they actually prove their audience, because I think that's, in the early days of influencer marketing, I think you saw a lot of people using influencers that maybe weren't the right influencer fit for their brand, maybe weren't the right audience fit, but I think you're right, the analytics are getting better with certain products.
Well, and I would just add, I think the expectation, obviously being digital is that there's data to support kind of every action that we're taking or decisions that we're making. And so, even Ted sharing this morning some of the new platform releases with, IZEA 2.0, I think lends itself to that, in that there's going to be, more rigor around those KPIs. So obviously, Dave is a CMO. This is who individuals like me are sort of saying, we need to be doing this, and he would be saying, okay, give me those metrics as to why. So I know for my organization, this is a huge area of opportunity for us. So that's one of the reasons I'm here, and several from my team are here, to really, even learn more about sort of the marketplace and what opportunities there are for an experiential brand like ours. And so we are in a rebuilding season, and we're on the up and up, and we're definitely looking for partners and collaborators and new creative thinkers.
It's a great time for an influencer strategy.
Yes, to come in beside us. So this is even more of a learning opportunity for us. We have definitely had lots of relationships with bloggers over the years.
I think we're in a similar space
But
there,
yeah.
where we both want to really re-educate an audience
That's
about
right.
our brands.
We absolutely do. So we're excited to be here and to continue to learn more about this type of marketplace too.
So that's the fun part of influencers. The not so fun part for public companies is that it requires a truckload of disclosure. You see brands like poor Lord & Taylor getting dinged for having all these Instagram influencers wearing a dress but then not disclosing that it was an advertisement. And the onus is actually on the company, not the influencer, for the most part, because that's the reputation that's at stake, and it's also the one who gets fined. So what do you feel, knowing that as public companies, are you prepared to, do you have a strategy in place to make sure that the influencers are truly disclosing that it is an advertisement or that they are a sponsored post?
Yeah, whenever we do influencer content, if we provided them anything, I mean, even a gift card, we ask them, and they do, and we ensure that they do. Note that at the top, and IZEA or other companies like IZEA will also make sure they help you not mess that up, right? And so they've been around the block with a lot of companies, and they know what typical disclosure rules are. But then we have our own legal department to help us with that as well. So we always want to be transparent, because the whole point of using an influencer or a blogger is that you guys have more credibility sometimes than just my marketing message just sort of being screamed out. And so the last thing you want to do is be fake about that.
Yeah.
And so disclosure is something that benefits the company and the influencer and the guest or consumer. And so we always do make sure we have the disclosures at the top of the post. Typically, they're not even at the bottom. They're typically in the top line before the blog starts.
So back to reputation. One of the things when a company is going public that I tell them that they absolutely need to do right away is they need a social listening platform. And it's because it becomes more important to know what everyone's saying about your brand on social media as a public company, because those kinds of things can affect your stock price, they can affect the way people think about your brand. And if you don't know that there's a conversation happening on a forum or somewhere on the internet, and you're not either responding or somehow being involved in it in a positive light, it can be really, really bad for your brand. How do you guys harness social listening? What are you currently doing at each of your companies?
Well, I can speak for our organization. So we have a centralized tool that we use across our entire organization that is, sort of strategically led by individuals who kind of sit in our support center office. And then because we have 6 different destinations across the company, we are able to share that tool out with
How
each
many
individual
people are
team.
dedicated to support?
There's probably over 40 people who
Wow.
use the tool within the company, ranging from kind of our guest relations team, so individuals who are on the front line. So if you have an issue with, entering the park, or have some sort of issue with maybe one of your annual pass products, and you respond in our social channels, they are now being trained to be able to support you with that and want to be able to answer questions where guests are. We also, of course, have it in the hands of our PR teams, our communications teams, and our social media teams. And we always want to make sure that it's very real time. We have great reporting that comes out of that, and we're able to aggregate all of the channels across kind of the social space, which you might expect. And so it's a kind of a foundational tool for us, and one that we continue to have more and more people adopt within the company.
Yeah, we don't have 40. We have, but we have guest relations, and we have our community management group have been separated, and they both report up through marketing. But that's something where we're looking at these really need to come together. The reason they're separated is because they used to be people would call like on a phone, like with the rotary thing, and call and make a complaint. And now really almost all the conversations happen online. So we do a lot of social listening across, we probably have 4 people from our media agency, like our advertising agency, and then also we have some internal folks on guest relations, and that's how we keep track of it. But the main thing is respond, respond, respond. I mean, we don't just track it and tally up who's complaining and who's saying praise. We're doing all we can to actively respond. So for example, when we rolled out this recent product, this new garden bar, it's a big salad bar, we had a lot of people complaining about the commercial, that they liked the commercial, but they didn't learn enough about all the ingredients. And of course, inside we're like, dude, we have 15 seconds, there's 58 ingredients, what do you want me to do? And so the way we responded though was, 1, very quickly we responded to each one of those with a list of all the ingredients, but then 2, we just said, to hell with it, we'll make a minute, 6-second commercial that wraps the entire ingredient list. And we did that in response to every single person. And it was just kind of for fun, and I think people appreciate that. Online, it's much more of a conversation, so you have way more latitude to kind of goof around a little bit and be a little bit more casual, and we try to do it that way. But we're always listening and always trying to respond as quickly as possible.
I think that's a really great response, and it's good to know, because I feel like that's what you get out of listening. You get that opportunity to delight somebody in a really extraordinary way and do something really, really like bespoke and interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to ask one really boring question because I have to, and because I do this with every company when they're going public, and it's, what do you do with investor relations? Do you guys put out tweets around earnings? Do you put out messages when you have an investor day? What do you do about your investor community?
So our investment community, I mean, we have robust investor relations, but we don't do a lot with social channels. We don't tweet out the earnings announcements and things like that. We haven't really, they're probably good ideas. We haven't felt the need to, and we just haven't got to them. So right now our investor relations typically uses traditional things, like press releases, teleconferences, obviously, forms being put out in the appropriate, places where we need to document that financial material. But, realistically, after a good quarter, bad quarter, I think it would be great for that, 2-sentence tweet or whatever. We haven't done so yet, but I know a lot of companies are looking at it.
And I would just say, well, Josh, meeting you and talking with you, just even in the last few days, that's probably an opportunity for us as well. We, have a hashtag that we have dedicated to that channel, but could use, cash tags and some of those other kind of snack-worthy content to be able to share with the investor community. So I'm actually going to take that as a key takeaway for us, because
Awesome.
I would be in the same spot as Dave. That probably isn't always top of mind for our social teams.
Yeah, for other public companies, this is the one thing that, as boring as it is so, so important. You have an earnings release every quarter. You can put out one little tweet that has like the key points to your earnings release, and then that way every investor, whether they're a small investor or an institutional investor, they know those points, and it looks sexy and it looks like the rest of your brand content. A little boring, but it makes a huge difference. And actually, right now, it can be a huge differentiator in terms of a public company being better than other public companies. So I'm excited that you guys are both down with that, as boring as it is. I know all the other things we discussed were super sexy. But thank you both so much for this incredible panel. I'm super excited for the collaboration of Ruby Tuesday and SeaWorld. Can we get into like a Twitter war later?
Yeah,
Maybe?
we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah,
We'll plan the Super Bowl, our Super Bowl interaction.
Right, together. We're in together.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you,
Good.
everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your attention.